Hello and welcome to another instructional video brought to you by ZappySys. In this video, we're going to cover how to use a custom ODBC JDBC Bridge driver. This is especially useful for when you want to consume JDBC driver data into non-Java apps, things like Excel, Power BI, Informatica, or maybe you have some other app where you want to consume data or expose data from it, but don't have native JDBC driver support. If you've seen any other ZappySys tutorials like this one, you may have noticed that most of the time I start off on a web page for that specific component on the ZappySys website, just like the one you see here. And I only want to point that out because this particular component has some prerequisites that must be installed before you use it. And so you'll definitely want to check out this help file link and go through those step-by-step instructions if you need some help with those prerequisites. And I'll walk you through how to do that. Okay, so as always, the first thing you'll want to do to use this custom component is download the ZappySys ODBC Power Pack. And you can get that from the website by hovering over Products, ODBC Power Pack, and download the free trial. And I'll be sure to put a link for that one in the description below. In addition to installing the ODBC Power Pack, you'll also need to have Java installed on your machine. So if you do, that's great. If you don't, no worries. We're going to check out this help file link right here on how do we get that. The bare minimum you'll need is Java runtime, and the best place I'm aware of to get the best free version is this link right here on Amazon, and we recommend version 8. That's the one that I have installed on this machine I'm using. So I'm going to click this link, and now you can scroll down in this list to find your specific version that you need. So 64-bit, Windows, version 8, JRE, MSI. You can use this link right here. Now let's say you have another use case and you want to use the older Oracle Java and you already have an Oracle Java license. That's totally fine. We'll hop back over to this help file and you can use this other link right here that says download JRE 8. It'll take you to this page. Make sure you're on the tab for Java 8. Scroll down to the JRE section. Expand it. Go to Windows, and here's your 64-bit JRE installer. So those are the steps to get the free JDK or JRE or the Oracle JRE for your Windows machine. Once you have everything installed, I'm going to just search for the Gateway Configuration tool, and I'm going to allow it to make changes, and up pops the Configuration tool. The first thing you'll want to do is hop over to the Users tab. And if you don't have any users created already, just add a login, make sure the password's the same, and you're going to need at least one administrator. I already have those 2 users, so I'm going to stick with those. And also be sure to go to the Network Settings tab and add a firewall rule so that other machines from the local network can reach the gateway on port 5000. There we go. Other than that, we'll just hop back over to the Data Sources tab and make a new data source. So I'm going to click Add. I'm going to give it a name, and I'm going to use the ZappySys JDBC Bridge driver, so I'm going to click that one. Now, when you're configuring this driver, you'll definitely want to refer to your JDBC driver documentation, because there are many out there. Just as an example, I was searching on GitHub earlier, and just for the term JDBC, you get tens of thousands of response. So just pay attention to your specific JDBC driver documentation, and that's going to help you enter all the information you need for this driver. So for this demo, I'm using a PostgreSQL JDBC example, and I already have my connection string over here that I'm just going to copy and paste in there. You'll notice this is vendor specific, so it has my host name, it has my port number, it has my database name. You'll need all those components. The driver class field is optional, but if you know it, I would recommend putting it in there. It might avoid some errors later on. The JDBC driver path is where you specify the file path for the actual driver that you're using, and it usually ends with the .jar. So I'm going to paste that in, and then the username and password for your JDBC driver. Paste those in as well. So that's really it. I mean, once you've entered those things and everything is correct, or you want to make sure that it's correct, you can click this test connection button, and this will also make sure that, hey, it works. And that also validated that we do have Java installed. So just know that before you try to test the connection. You probably noticed that we just only entered a few values, but there are lots of other sections for things like error handling and log settings, just to give you an idea of how flexible and useful this custom driver is. So now let's check out the preview tab. This is where we can use the SQL editor here to get the data that this ODBC connection will return. You can enter any SQL into this editor that the JDBC driver accepts. And you'll likely want to select from an existing table using this drop-down menu here. So as an example, I'll pick the customer data table. And we can see that SQL is already generated for this table that contains all of the columns. So if I click the preview data button, we'll see that data is returned in the pane below from that table. And also, whenever we use the preview data button, the metadata is automatically generated for us too, which is we can see right here. So when you're finished with the SQL editor and you're ready to start using this ODBC DSN, you can just click the OK button. And there we have it. That's how easy it is to use the custom ZappySys ODBC JDBC Bridge driver. Okay, so we've already covered how to create a gateway connection, how to create a user account for the gateway, how to make sure the firewall settings are configured, and how to connect to an API data source. Now let's see how to use the data from this particular gateway in a report in SSRS. I already have a report services project in Visual Studio, so I'm just going to open that up. And I'll just create a new report. So I'm going to use the wizard and click Next. We'll call this data source name data source 1. That sounds good. Type SQL Server. We'll edit the connection. So don't forget we used localhost on port 5000. We're using the SQL Server authentication, and we're using the user we created in the gateway. And don't forget our gateway is called ZS Gateway. So we're going to test the connection. It works. Awesome. So we'll say OK. We'll say OK. We'll click Next. And we'll stick with our same customers table. We want a tabular report. And we'll use all the columns. We'll say Next. Report name, report 1, sure. We'll click Finish. And just like that, you see report 1 is created. We have our data source is created with the connection string. It looks good. So let's just preview the output of the report. And there we have it. There's the data from that API connection. We could refresh this, and don't forget this is a live connection to that API, so every time we refresh it, we're getting brand new data. I mean, we could do some other configuration or cosmetic tweaks to this report, obviously, but it's ready for deployment if that's what you would want to do with it. I mean, that's it. That's how easy it is to retrieve data from an API source with the custom ZappySys gateway service and then use it in SSRS. If you want to give it a try, but you haven't already downloaded the ODBC Power Pack yet, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget the link is in the description below. And be sure to subscribe to the ZappySys YouTube channel to get more tips and tricks like this and other updates in the future.